Hey guys, in this video we're going to be starting with object-oriented programming concepts. Now what is object-oriented programming? Instead of using functions and variables like we usually do in C, we consider data and functions as objects and classes. Now what is an object? An object can be any real-world item such as an animal, a shape, a car, a human, a bed, etc., etc. So these are objects. Now, what is a class? A class defines how an object can behave and what data that object has. Now, classes include two things: attributes or data members and methods or member functions. Attributes is basically variables or things that can hold data. Suppose if I take a car as an example, its attribute can be color, weight, brand, height, speed, maximum speed. This is also known as data members. Now what are methods or member functions? Methods are basically functions that defines what an object can do. If I take the example of a car again, it can be start the car, stop the car, turn right, turn left, accelerate, brake, reverse, etc., etc. Now, my friend who's doing the Python series has done an explanation on this. I'll link his video in the description. Now, how do you define a class and object in C++? So use the keyword class, then whatever class name you want. Now suppose as I was giving examples as car, I'll name it a car class. Now below that, as I said, classes have data members and or attributes and methods or member functions. So the attributes is the color. So if I say string color is equal to, or I can just keep it as color, then float weight, string brand. Now up here I'm putting public. I'll explain that in future videos. Now these three things can be the attributes or data members. Next we have member functions or methods. So I said to turn right, so and at the end of the class definition there should be a semicolon. Now in the main function we need objects of this car class. So how do we define objects? Objects are done by telling the class name, then the object name. It can be any name you want. Suppose I put car1. I can set the data members or attributes of an object, and each object has its own value or own copy of these attributes. Now I can make multiple objects. I made 3 objects of the class car. Now I'm going to set the color of them. Each of them is going to be different. So now how do we access these attributes? You use a dot, then the attribute name. Now let me print out each of these colors to show you that each object has its own copy or its own value for the data member, and they don't connect or they don't share a single copy of that attribute. Let me also include the header file string. Let me save it and run the program. Now you can see I created three objects of the class car, and I set different colors to each object. So I printed them, and as you can see, each object of the class car has a different color. So each object has its own set of attributes and data members, and they're not associated with each other. Now let me call member functions for each of them. Now let me call the member functions for each object. Now I told two cars to turn left and one car to turn right. And there you go. I hope you understood classes and objects, and please refer to my friend's video in Python explaining the same concepts. It doesn't matter which language you're learning, the concepts and logic usually remain same. Thanks for watching.